Of course, all this meant that no outsider could watch the unloading. This often forced Bruno and Giancarlo to invent excuses so the truck drivers arriving with a load wouldn't become suspicious. They usually explained that a team of professional workers would be coming soon to transfer the goods by other means. So, while Bruno invited the driver to some nearby bar to wait for the phantom workers, Giancarlo stood watch over the truck. Obviously, the places where they met were chosen in advance. The unloading operation lasted just a few seconds, so when Bruno and the truck driver came back, it was already over. The truck driver was always impressed by the speed and cleanliness of the work. Buying such large quantities and so many varieties of materials was very expensive. Sometimes it was the friends who paid part of the cost, or all of it, maybe in their usual way. But most of the time it wasn't like that, which created more than a few problems.
Essentially, the vast majority of the expenses were paid by Bruno. In other words, he took the trouble of paying, the others took part if and when they could.
Throughout this story, definitely out of the ordinary, it seems even more absurd that despite their astonishing technological capabilities, the W-56 needed help to get food or other materials. Not to mention the money that materialized out of nowhere.
Of course, they could get whatever they wanted without the slightest problem. As I said, their technology was advanced. In my opinion, putting on this little show served to keep the sense of cohesion tight.
In fact, the friends explained that to be able to operate among us, humans had to express their goodwill in a concrete way too. They said, "Help us to help you." Lots of people who were part of the friendship story saw W-56 flying saucers. These sightings were almost always by appointment. The W-56 indicated the place, date and time, so the humans were able to get organized with film equipment. Sometimes the photos were also published. The series of a flying saucer over Milan, photographed by Gaspare Dell'Arma, ended up in Domenica del Corriere in the second issue of April 1962. The sighting had taken place at the end of February of the same year. The eyewitnesses were Gaspare Dell'Arma, Bruno Samaciccia and journalist Bruno Ghibaudi, at the time author of numerous articles on UFOs, and one of the first journalists to seriously address the issue.
When we were on my balcony in Piazza Giulio Cesare in Milan, when that saucer was photographed, that's why he later wrote the article in the Domenica del Corriere. Besides Bruno, he was present too.
Obviously, only now, after the revelations of Professor Breccia and Gaspare Dell'Arma, can we know what really revolved around that seemingly chance occurrence. But how much weight should we give to these claims? Gaspare still remembers one of the sightings perfectly. It happened in the countryside of Treno near Milan. There are still excellent quality photos and a film clip, more deteriorated because of the decades that have passed. The W-56 asked Gaspare himself to choose the place.
I went back to Bruno and said, "That's the place I chose." And then he told me, "Go buy some film, put it in the camera." And I said, "But no, you put it in." No, you have to do everything." I said, "Okay." I put the film in the camera and filmed for a good 2 minutes. He wanted me to take the film out of the camera. I put it in my pocket and took it to Ferrania, which was then in Via Mattiotti, to have it developed. When I went to get it, I took it home and saw the film clip of this beautiful flying saucer that was going up and down almost to the ground.
On top of the saucer, you see a dark area, which the W56 explained was a particular effect of condensation caused by the energy of the flying saucer. Some of the photos of the series taken in the Treno countryside were lost, but those that remain would provide evidence of the incredible sighting experienced by Gaspare de Lama and Bruno Sammachicha. While returning to Milan, the saucer followed them for a stretch, and Sammachicha took one more shot, the last of the 12 exposures on the roll.
Bruno took a photo of the same flying saucer, which had apparently reappeared there to follow us or to give us a last farewell.
The particular phenomenon of condensation does not appear in this shot. This important series of documents was analyzed to evaluate any possible falsification. Back then, digital technologies didn't exist, so it was very difficult to produce high-quality forgeries.
I accurately and specifically analyzed the photographic material concerning the friendship case. I didn't find any evidence of forgery, such as a small-scale model suspended by cables, superimposed images, processing with 3D graphics.
From the images of the analyses that were made, I can confirm that the object was quite large. We're talking roughly 4 to 5 meters around, and this also agrees with the testimonies of the people I spoke with, and the object is precisely inserted into this context of lights, shadows. Therefore, it is perfectly placed in its environmental context.
As part of the friendship case, an enormous amount of photographic material and film clips about flying saucers was produced. Much has been distributed indiscriminately, much has been lost, and even stolen, and much more is still locked in the drawers of other unknown participants who don't want to make themselves known. However, there's enough material available to give us an idea of just how incredible the events would have been. All the material that is known to date is thanks to Gaspare de Lama and Stefano Breccia.
In the friendship case, there were literally hundreds of photos, videos, audio recordings, and that's about it, since technology ended there at the time.
Over time, friendship would involve other people who took part in this incredible experience in various ways. Everybody had the opportunity to see the phenomena, and many had the chance to personally meet the W56. The number and kinds of individuals involved, in Italy alone, would be considerable.
I have a file where there are the names of, I think, 120 people who were involved in this story in some way. Those are the people I'm aware of, but who knows how many others there are that I don't know about. The people involved in friendship came from all walks of life. There was a cross-section of normal society. Friendship was also active in other countries, in France, Switzerland, Germany, particularly in Germany, but also in Siberia, in Argentina, and who knows how many other places, in Australia.
As we've seen, teleportation was one of the most impressive technological capabilities the Friends had. This system was used to materialize and dematerialize objects of various sorts, and even slips of paper with the written answers to questions asked by those who were present at the meetings.
Their technology is infinite. There were so many things I saw. The ones I remember the most were the teleports.
Si formavano a mezz'aria
Their film reels, or even, sometimes, written notes or film clips of flying saucers that we would then watch just came from above. They materialized in mid-air in the room. Sometimes they came from the floor and tapped me under the chair. Sometimes I saw them materialize in the air.
Along with teleportation, some of the most frequent phenomena were communications between the friends and the humans through normal radios. This was also done their way.
Their technology was virtually indistinguishable from magic. For example, if I took two identical radios tuned into the same frequency and put them side by side awaiting their message could be heard on one radio while the other radio continued its normal broadcast as if nothing was happening. So there was obviously insane amounts of energy involved and directivity just as crazy.
So I bought myself one of those transistor radios. Bruno told me to put it there on the cabinet. In 5 minutes, they'll prepare it for you. In fact, after 5 minutes, there was a big crack. A sort of greenish flame came out, and Bruno said, "There, now it's ready." And they immediately greeted me through the radio. CG, and I could also change the frequencies. The broadcast continued.
Some of these communications were also recorded with the reel-to-reel devices existing then. Gaspare still owns some of the tapes. For the first time after so many years, the voice of the W56 is made public.
Cari amici, cari figlioli, siate certi di noi, poiché nessuno tra noi vacillerà. Voi siate uniti, uniti, uniti e sopportate le vostre debolezze reciproche, lottando e migliorando come uomini e come nostri cari amici. Il nostro mondo per voi cari non è facile a capire. Questo è naturale, ma con l'affetto e la fiducia potrete ugualmente stare vicino ai nostri cuori aperti a voi e comprenderci di più. Un abbraccio fatto di caldo affetto e di pura amicizia dal vostro Sigir.
Radios weren't the only communication tools used. Sometimes the friends would also insert themselves into normal television programs.
I remember once there was a film, and it was interrupted and their saucers were seen flying, while in the background their voices, maybe only greeting us that time.
A fourth witness of the extraordinary events of friendship who accepted Breccia's invitation to speak is the professor of design Paolo Di Girolamo. His experience was very brief. He met the friendship group only a couple of times. Always a ufology enthusiast, Di Girolamo knew consul Alberto Perego and journalist Bruno Ghibaldi personally. And it was precisely the latter to put him in touch with Bruno Samaciccia in Pescara. Paolo had with him a letter he'd written for the W56.
And he welcomed me into a kind of living room, so to speak. I enter, I lay this letter on the console, and I sit down on the sofa. At one point, Bruno Samaciccia says, "We should be getting some news, let's see." He takes this radio and turns it on. The radio was playing music, and then we hear a piercing whistle. Really a very loud hissing sound. I hear Sigir here. "Hello, Paolo. Be honest with us all. Be honest with us all. Be honest with us all." 3 times. Then another voice says, "Let's get the goods."
oppure una merce, secondo me, dove